Hey Bookish Babes, and welcome to my book nook.
We are monsters. We give and we take.
For those that are new around here, the name's Rainy, and I read all different types of genres because I just love reading all different types of books. So if you're interested in that, please like and subscribe to my channel down below. It really helps my channel grow. Today's video is probably my most exciting video of the entire year because I get to gush and rant and rave about my favorite books of the year. My top 10 best books of 2023. And let me just tell you, I had an amazing reading year. I'm pretty sure I had like 45 or 46 5-star reads. And so there were so many good books to choose from when I was selecting my top 5 or my top 10. And I will say from about book 4 and below, those could probably be interchanged in any specific order, but 4 and up is like pretty solidified in what I like. And then of course I'm going to talk about some honorable mentions as well because there are some books that didn't make the top 10 that I just have to let you know that they are also amazing books. And so we'll start with honorable mentions and then we'll work our way from book number 10 all the way up to number 1. So if you're with me, let's get started. Sorry, my bangs were bothering the crap out of me, so I tucked them away so that we can start a little bit fresher. This girl's honestly overdue for a haircut and it's coming super duper soon. Okay, but let's talk about honorable mentions. The first one I want to talk about is Cackle by Rachel Harrison. Now, I read Rachel Harrison's entire backlist this year, and this was by far my favorite. It was just the perfect cozy horror that I need, and I think she does that really, really well. So this one was about a girl named Annie that was dumped by her longtime boyfriend, so she seeks a fresh start, and she takes a new teaching position and moves all the way to from Manhattan to a small village upstate. And she realizes this is a very cozy town, but that has a lot of spiders, which is weird. And then she stumbles upon this woman named Sophie, and they basically become best friends, but like it kind of seems like they're a little more than friends. And Sophie is a witch. And so it is just their friendship. Honestly, this book focuses on the friendship and also helping Annie realize that she didn't need that man in her life. And this book was so good, so sweet. I loved every second of this. I read this in like a day. It was just the best fun little cozy witchy time for October. And so if you're going or you haven't read anything by Rachel Harrison yet, I recommend starting here because this one was a treat. The next honorable mention that I want to talk about, I actually snuck in towards the end when I was reading it for Goodreads romance books, and that is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I had never read anything by Abby Jimenez before, and then I read this book, and this was such a good romance. I loved it so much. I love Alexis and Daniel. This one is about Alexis. Alexis is a world-renowned surgeon and her parents want her to take over the legacy and become the next chief of the hospital. But she doesn't know if she wants that. And then Daniel is just this like carpenter nobody dude that like they meet at a bar, they hook up, and then she ends up liking him more than she initially thought. But he doesn't fit into her lifestyle, and it is an age gap romance, so she's older than him by like 10 years. And it's just their romance and figuring out how to both fit into each other's lives. And it was beautiful. And the topics that they touch on are truly heartbreaking in here. And what I really just enjoyed about this is her writing. Like there are specific authors that the writing, the way, the words they choose, the way they write just really works for me. And Rachel Harrison is one of them and Abby Jimenez is one of them. This was just so good. I was eating it up. I love this relationship so very much. And if you haven't read this one, please read it. It is such a fun time. The next one on my list, I'm sure everybody is going to be shocked that this is not on my best books of the year, but like I loved it, but I didn't love it as much as like everybody else loved it. But I still really loved it. And that is Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman, okay? I still absolutely loved this book. This one is about Cora, and she goes to her sister's birthday party, getting stranded because everybody else leaves before her, and she doesn't have anybody else to call, and nobody's picking up, so she calls her soon-to-be brother-in-law, who she can't stand. They hate each other. And he picks her up, and on the way, they end up getting kidnapped by this man who, I can't remember what he calls himself, but basically he kidnaps people, like people together that are not necessarily in love with each other, and basically tortures them to their wits' end until they end up falling in love with each other, and then once they're in love with each other, he kills them. And so that's intense, right? And so this is a very, very dark romance. And so the first half focuses on that, and the second half focuses on them readjusting to life after they escape, and like how are they going to go back to being the same? Because they were in love with each other down there in the basement, and now he has to go back to her sister, and she has to go back to like the real world, right? So like it's their love story, and when I say this is tragic and very, very triggering and traumatizing, it is. So this book is not for the faint of heart. Like, it has so many trigger warnings. Please check it out. Like, there are a lot of trigger warnings in this. But it was a beautiful story, and I absolutely loved Dean and Cora. Like, they are just it is just amazing, their love for each other throughout all of this. So please read this only if you think you can actually handle this book. Another honorable mention I read in November, and that was Saving Noah by Lucinda Berry. When I tell you that this book is beyond tragic, it really is. So if you've never read We Need to Talk About Kevin, it's along those lines. It's about Noah. He's an A honor roll student. He's a swimmer. He's like 16 or 17, and he ends up getting a pedophile charge for molesting young girls, basically, is what it's about. And his mother refuses to turn her back on him despite his horrific crimes. And so the book is told primarily from his mother's point of view, with a couple of chapters from Noah and then a couple chapters interspersed from other characters here and there. And it is just a tragic story of what a mother will do for her son, even when he has done something so horrific that most people can't even bear to look at him. And when I tell you, this is a thriller, right? There was not really like a thrilling moment per se until the very end, the last chapter, a perspective change. Oh my goodness gracious. This book had me in a chokehold at the end. This book is so good. And what I love about Lucinda is that she is a therapist, or she was a therapist as well. She's actually a trauma psychologist. So she uses all of her psychology and therapy techniques in her books, and they're beautiful because they're written by an actual therapist. And so the representation is fantastic, and I can feel that when I'm reading the book. I honestly love every book that I've read by her so far, so I definitely need to read more from her. But this one knocked me off my feet, I might say. I'm gonna whiz through these last couple honorable mentions because I'm taking a while. But the next one is We Spread by Ian Reid. This is the first book that I read of the year, and I thought for sure it was gonna make it into my top 10. And then, of course, other books have knocked it down. But this one was so good. This one focuses on an old people home. And basically this one woman who I believe has Alzheimer's all throughout this. They don't necessarily say that. But then she starts thinking that like the nursing home is working against her and that there's evil beings at work. And this book is not for the faint of heart. Meaning if you have family members that have Alzheimer's or dementia, or you can't handle that sort of thing, then like this might not be a book for you. But it was just so beautiful, and there were so many amazing quotes within this, and it's just, I flew through this book. We read it for Haley Hughes Book Club, and I still just remember it being such a beautifully crafted book about like grief and talking about topics about death and being okay with death and all these other things. It was truly beautiful. So I definitely want to make sure that you check out this book if you have not. The next one on my list is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I actually read this because Brittany made me read this book, and I'm so glad that she did because this book was so good. It is very Shakespeare fulfilled. So if you're not a Shakespeare girly, you're probably not gonna like it. But it's basically about 5 friends that were in college together. One of them ends up dying, and the whole book is figuring out what actually happened because one of them went to jail for the crimes and to see what actually happened. And it's broken into 5 acts, just like theater, and scene 1, scene 2 for chapters and stuff, which I stand for as a theater major, or not theater major girly, but as a theater captain and all this other stuff. So it was fabulous. But I will tell you, there were whole Shakespeare pages. So if you're not for that, you're not gonna like this. But I really enjoyed it, and I just loved the story. It was so fun. It was so fast-paced. I had the best time with this book. So if you are a theater girly and you're looking for your next theater adventure thriller read, this is the one for you. 2 left. The next one is Hollow by Karina Halley. This is a gothic retelling of Sleepy Hollow, basically. And I love Sleepy Hollow, and it is so good. So this one is very spice-filled because Miss Halley knows how to write a spice-filled romance. And this one, like I said, is about Ichabod Crane, and also about the main girl, which I can't remember her name right now, and her having to choose between like Ichabod Crane and the other character. And the stuff that she switched in the story was like so intriguing. I just had the best spicy, wild time with this book. So if you're looking for like a spooky vibes, dark romance with like a headless horseman and all that, then this one is going to be a great contender for you. Last but not least, this is probably the highest one in my honorable mentions, is 6 Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. Honestly, I need to reread this again because it probably should have made my top 10. I loved this little novella so freaking much. Also, the hardcover is just stunning, is it not? So this one is about Lilith, and basically her town has this god-cursed illness where people are just dying very slowly, and so she decides to find a cure by striking a bargain with this vampire named Vale, and she offers him 6 roses in exchange for 6 vials of his blood because she has some reason, thinks that his vampire blood will cure their town. And it is also their relationship, and when I tell you I stan Lilith and Vale, I really do stan Lilith and Vale. They are so freaking cute. I read this so quick though, which is why I probably didn't get time to enjoy it, which is why I bought it, because I read it on Kindle, and I plan on annotating it soon. I had the best time with this book. I was living, loving, laughing, crying with this book. Miss Carissa Broadbent can do no wrong, in my opinion. Coming in at 10th place is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I had never read a R.F. Kuang book before. I do have the Poppy War series. I want to start that. I do have Babel. I do want to start that. This book was so much fun. So if you don't know what this one is about by now, it's about June Hayward and Athena Liu, and they are both authors, and one is Asian And she's a literary darling, Athena, but June Hayward is like nobody. So then they're hanging out one day, and Athena actually dies in front of June, and June steals her completed manuscript that she had just finished and decides to like come out with it and pretend that her name is Juniper Song instead of June Hayward so that she can get away with stealing this woman's work since she is Asian. And it is such a big dig and deep dive into like the publishing world and like the shady things that go on behind closed doors that nobody knows about except for authors and whatnot. And I loved the satire and loved this. I loved all of the conversations that she was having, and the commentary was commentarying, okay? So I very much enjoyed this book. I cannot wait to continue on with other books that she has, but I read this in like a day. It just reads so quick. And it also has a little bit of like a thrillery element at the end, which I was not expecting, but I had the best time with this book. And I do agree for all of the amazing raving reviews that it has. Like, this seriously was a phenomenal book. So if you've seen this around and you're like, oh, it's being talked about way too much, there's a reason. It really is that good. The next book on this list started my journey to loving this author. And that is Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. And yes, it is tabbed. It's tabbed because I was reading this I actually read this for a mafia romance podcast. And so I was tabbing like favorite quotes and like things that I needed to remember. So like now I need to actually go back and like highlight it because like I love that I annotated this. I have not been annotating the rest of this series, but I am slowly making my way through the Brutal Birthright series. So this is by Miss Sophie Lark. And at this point I've read like 5 or 6 books of hers and I absolutely love her. She's an all-time favorite author. And this one is my favorite, though, because this is about Callum and Ida. And I just love them. So these books follow an Irish mafia family and I believe an Italian mafia family. And I mean, it follows a bunch of other mafia families, but like this one specifically follows them. And of course, like they don't get along very well. But they believe that in order to prevent all-out warfare between the two mafia gangs, that they need to have an arranged marriage happen between Callum, which is one of the heirs to the Irish mafia, and Ida, which is like the oldest daughter of the Italian mafia. And of course, they hate each other. They want to try to kill each other, of course. But somewhere along the line, like wires get crossed, and their hatred turns into lust, and then into love, ultimately. And I loved this book. When I tell you that Ida is super sassy, and there is something that she does to him in the beginning of this that like I just laugh at so hard. Like all you need to know is like strawberries. That's all you need to know. And Callum is also so sweet. I love when their relationship finally turns into love because it is just so pure, so passionate. It definitely is still a steamy book as well. I just love a mafia book, okay? This was so much fun. I found myself giddy reading this. I just had the best freaking time with it. And I wonder, what are these blue codes? Oh, I love this. Yes. Here are some of my favorite quotes. Trust is rarer than love. It's putting your fate, your happiness, your life in someone's hands, hoping they'll keep it safe. I just love quotes like that. Or let me find another one. I just like this one because she's so funny. She's making fun of him. She said, "Why would I call you?" She says flatly. "I spent 3 months ignoring your messages and calls. When you're trying to train a dog, you can't give it a single treat or it'll keep barking and slobbering on you forever." I just love this book. It is just so good. I had the best time with it, and Callum and Ida will always be there for me. All right, number 8. Let's just get the elephant out of the room. I'm sure you knew this was coming as it's been on most people's best books of the year, and that is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Now, I want to acknowledge, I recognize this book for what it is, okay? It is not the most well-crafted book on the face of the universe. It is not a book that I'm going to take to the grave with me, okay? But it was a fun time. I had the best time while I was reading this book. It was right after I had my baby girl, and so I was pumping a lot, but also trying to feed her, and we were just having our best time. It was such a fun ride, and I know I still stand by it that I had so much fun with this. I honestly need to reread it before I read Iron Flame. But I just loved it, okay? I loved my time with it. And if you don't know what it is by now, you're actually living under a rock. It's just about this girl named Violet. She's supposed to enter this scribe quadrant in Basgyr. It's basically this college for like all different types of like military people. And her mom, who is the commanding general, decides that instead she needs to become a dragon rider, which she hasn't been training for. She's been training for to be a scribe her entire life. And so she ends up having to bond with a dragon, and there are dragons in this book and all this stuff, and there's a romance between her and Xaden, and it's just wild, okay? I had so much fun with this. I can't really say anything other than that because I know it's not masterful writing, but you know what? You're allowed to put a book on here because you had the best time with it. And the best time with it, I really did, okay? Okay, so it's number 8. It's not life-changing, but it was a great time for me. And at number 7 for me was Heartless by Elsie Silver. Now, I'm slowly making my way through the Chestnut Springs series right now, and I'm actually on book 3, Powerless, right now. And I'm not loving that one as much as I did Flawless and Heartless, but this one takes the cake. Kate and Willow. So great. So this is a grumpy single dad romance, okay? And this one is about Cade Eaton, and it's an age gap romance as well. He's 13 years older than Willa, and Willa is the best friend of our main character from Flawless, whose name I'm forgetting right now. But she decides to get hired as a nanny for Cade and take care of his younger son. And it's their romance. He's a grumpy dad, okay? He doesn't want to get anybody close in his life because of the stuff that's gone down with him between his ex-wife and his son. Or his ex-girl and his son, okay? Just so much has gone on. But the way that she breaks down his walls and he just does anything for her, and I can't. This is like the perfect romance, okay? Who knew I was going to be a Horsetown, a girly pop romance person? But this was so cute. I loved it so much. It was very steamy, like Miss Elsie knows how to write some good steam. And it was just so sweet because it's really the quiet men. It's really the quiet love stories that do something for me, as you'll see when we talk about another book higher up in my list. But this was a perfect book. So if you're looking for the perfect little small town romance book between a single grumpy dad, this is the one for you to pick up, okay? This is the one. The next one I don't physically own, but I really wish I did because I loved this book so much. And it is A Ship of Bones and Teeth by Karina Halley. So Miss Halley got an honorable mention and also a best book. But this one I loved so much. This is a dark romance Little Mermaid retelling. And basically, it's about our main girl, and I can't remember their names because they're not the same names. They might be the same names. I think it might have been Ariel and Eric, but I can't remember for sure. It's basically what would have happened if Ariel had married Prince Eric and he actually turned out to be a very jerky, abusing husband. And 10 years down the line, she's wishing that she could go back to being a mermaid. And then them getting kidnapped by the evil Mer King of the world, not her dad. And it's a relationship between him and her. And it is so good, so spicy, and so funny. Karina Halley writes really funny, like, sarcastic moments between our characters. And there was just some stuff that went down that was just so good. This book was just a fun, smutty pirate time. I just loved every single second of this book. I read through it so fast. I just remember smiling all the time, being so happy with it. And I just love the ending of this book. And I can't wait until she writes more. Hence why I loved Hollow as well. I just love like these dark retellings that she's doing. But this one also has a bunch of trigger warnings, so definitely check it out. If you're not a dark romance girly, then probably don't pick this up. But this one was so much fun. I just am so glad that I was able to read this and that I snuck on the train when everyone was reading it because it was so fun in the summertime. I think it's like the perfect summery dark romancy read because it's like beachy, you know, all that sort of stuff. So if you're looking for a good time like that and you love The Little Mermaid as much as me, then this is a good one for you to pick up. In at number 5 is Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. This is also a piratey, mermaidy book. Okay, this was during Once Upon a Read-A-Thon in the summer when I read both of these books. And so this one, I'm so excited because Jean actually bought me this copy so that I could own it physically because she knew how much I loved it. So thank you, Jean, if you're watching this. This one is about Bennett Sharp, and basically she is wanted for piracy, and she is on the run also from Priest Farrell, which is like this other pirate lord that like I can't tell you about. She is on the run from this very ice-cold pirate hunter named Lord Ashley Cutler, and she has to escape him because he ends up kidnapping her, but also she's trying to escape from Priest, which is like this other lover of her, but can she walk away from their twisted desires, okay? So like this is probably one of the saddest intros to a book that I've ever read. Like, I remember sobbing almost at the beginning of this. It was so incredibly sad what happens to Bennett in, like, the first 20, 30 pages of this book, okay? But it was so good. And there is something that happened in this book, and I was not prepared for it. Like, I cannot spoil this for you because this is not on the back of the book, okay? But let's just say, go into this romance with open eyes, okay? It is fun. It is dashing. It is a smutty good time. I'm so glad that I have the physical book now so that I can read this again and I can annotate it because I loved every single moment of this book. But it is just... I just love Bennett. I love Lord Ashley Cutler. I love Priest. I love everything that happens in this book. And I was not expecting the twists in this book, okay? The twists that happened in this romance. I am shooketh. But I'm so glad that I read this. I want to read more from Pam Godwin because I've heard that like she's just really, really great author in general. And so I definitely will be checking out more from her. But please check this one out if you haven't. It is just a fun historical fantasy pirate romance. The next one I want to talk about, I can't because unfortunately St. Martin's has still not talked on the issues that they are having. So if you haven't looked into the St. Martin boycott press, please look into it. But at this time, I'm not supporting any books that are from St. Martin's Press or their imprint company, so Wednesday Books or another one. And there's one from Wednesday Books that I'm very sad about that I cannot share about in my number 4 spot. So we're just gonna pretend that that didn't happen. I'm already gonna move on to a alternate choice for spot number 4. And this one, I'm not gonna lie, this kind of spoils the video that I have coming up, but it is what it is. I have to talk about this book because I just read it and I loved everything about it. And that is The Right Move by Liz Tomford. Yes, you are right. I finally caught the Windy City Trail, okay? I got on the train. I read Mile High, and I know a lot of people don't like that book. nearly as much as book 2. And like, yeah, book 2 is like superb. It's the best one. Okay. I haven't read Caught Up yet, but I still really loved Mile High. And so I was like, oh, okay, how can the right movie get better than it? And then it did, because of Mr. Ryan Shea. Okay. So this is a basketball romance about Ryan Shea, who is this, basically he's like one of the biggest NBA players right now. Like, he's insanely popular. And in the first book, Stevie, the flight attendant, her friend, who is also a flight attendant, Indy, needs a place to live because she'd just gotten out of a really bad breakup. And she asks her brother if he can stay with her for a while. And of course he's like, no, I don't want this random woman living with me. But he does. And so it's Indy and Rye's story. And Ryan is the quiet type of love man that everybody needs. Okay? Everybody needs a Ryan Shea in their life. I just wish that I owned this book physically, because I just want to be able to like read it again already. Like, I almost started rereading it when I finished. And the fact that I also love about this is that there is deaf representation in this, because here, Indy's family, her parents, I believe, are deaf. And so he starts learning sign language to interact with her parents. And I couldn't. When I tell you, this is the closest that a book has gotten to making me cry. And I think that that is something to acknowledge, because I don't cry at books. Okay? So let me read a quote, though. That is one of my favorite. This is the one. Sometimes the quietest love is the loudest. And I agree with that. Ryan is just, I just can't tell you all of the stuff that he does for Indy in this. Like, it just melts my heart thinking about this book. If you have not read The Windy City, and you haven't read any of these, read The Right Move. No, you don't have to read Mile High to read The Right Move. But I think you should, because then you get all the nuances of like the characters, because there's a lot of character overlap between all of them. So I recommend reading Mile High and then this. But this book is a non-negotiable. You must read this book. Number 3, which I don't have because my friend is borrowing it, but my friend is moving soon, so she better give me this copy back, because it's my favorite book. It's number 3. It's Bring Me Your Midnight by Rachel Griffin. Now, I had never read a Rachel Griffin book before, and I read this during Halloween time, and I don't know what it was, if it was the writing, if it was the story, if it was the right time, right place, but this book had me hooked. I just loved it so much. So there's a lot that's going on in this book, and I'm right now blanking on names. Oh yeah, Tana and Wolf. So this is about Tana. And basically, so what Rachel Griffin's books always do is they take nature in some form and combine it with magic. And so in this one, she belongs in a witchy coven, and they are in charge of like managing the tide and all of that. But they're trying to also come to an alliance with the humans, because the humans kind of like disregard the witches, and are, instead of getting banned, they want to stay there. And so she's ended up in an arranged marriage with like a prince from the other place. And of course the prince is fine and all, but that's not what she wants. She wants something more in life. And so then she starts hearing someone calling to her in the night, because basically she does something that she shouldn't have done. I'm not going to say what. And she ends up meeting Wolf, who is part of a witch clan that was supposed to have been extinguished, and they practice dark magic. And so she's learning to interact with her dark magic, because dark magic is not actually bad, but her parents have taught her that it is bad, and all this other stuff goes on. And so it's their forbidden love story. And this book is just so cute, okay? It's not spicy, obviously, because it's YA, but I had the best time with it. It was just adorable. I was living, laughing, loving. I know I say that a lot. It had like the perfect cozy vibes. I'm telling you, maybe I just read this at the right time, but like I just thought the writing was lyrical. It was whimsical writing. I just loved every second of it. Like, it is just beautiful and poetic and mesmerizing, and the characters were just so cute. No, it is a little insta-lovey, I'm gonna say that, but like, it's YA. They can get away with it, okay? They can get away with it. I had so much fun with this book, and I just want everybody to appreciate it as much as I did, okay? So please read this book if you've never read a Rachel Griffin. I already have her other 2 books on deck, ready to read. I'm going to read one for Winterween, so that I am ready to go. I'm so excited for this. Coming in at number 2, and this is a book that deserves so much love and affection, and that is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings, okay? I love this book. I stan Magnolia and BJ, even though they are toxic AF. If you have not heard of this book by now, it is a toxic, gossipy girl vibe, rich woman, rich people scandal, okay? And it is closed door romance, meaning there are no steamy scenes in this book, and this book still has me in a chokehold. Also, the original covers, we give a moment to shine. They're beautiful, okay? So this one follows Magnolia and BJ, and basically they were in a relationship, and then something happened that broke them apart, and BJ wants Magnolia back, but Magnolia doesn't want anything to do with BJ. And when you find out what happened at the end, no, BJ, no! You still have to know, like, how they love each other, right? Because they have 3 books. Their 3rd one's coming out in February. I can't wait for that. But this book, what she does really well is writes really beautiful quotes. Like, they are just beautiful, okay? I just have to find one. I mean, I have to find like a million. But let's just see. What about this one? Do you know, though, that I feel safer in his arms than I do out of them? And I know that he smells like a Sunday morning. Slow, Easy, uncomplicated, like fresh coffee, new towels in a light flooded room, oak moss, patchouli, bergamot, and lavender. I also love this one. We're wild horses running down a cliff face. There's no cantering, no gentle trot into love. We are the man from Snowy River galloping down that cliff face, tumbling towards the inevitable. We can't go slow. The weight of us is too heavy. Gravity calls us, conspires against us. Honestly, I could just keep reading quote after quote after quote, but I'm going to find one more. Let's see if I can find my favorite one. Probably not. I remember it like a physical punch in the gut how much I loved him. Really loved him. To the bone loved him. Cut me and I'd bleed him. How much I needed him, still needed him, would forever, always never, couldn't even if I tried needed him. And I remember being deeply afraid of what my life would be like without him in it. The most beautiful boy in every room. The great love of my life. How many loves do you get in a lifetime? I'm telling you, there are so many amazing quotes from this book, okay? I love it. Like, I tapped that shit up, okay? Now, I will say, if you're not a toxic romance girly, please don't read this. This is not the book for you. But this book is for me. And I loved every second of it. And coming in at number 1, the cream of the crop. The woman, the shining star of the entire show. Let's give her a moment for her glory. And that is Serpent in the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I loved this book. I loved this book. Like, I'm so obsessed with this book. Like, for Christmas, they have page overlays on Etsy. I will link the woman that made these because they are beautiful. I made my mom get them. Like, look, that's Victor and her as a baby. And like, let's go. Here he is, Mr. Rain. I'm just like, oh, gorgeous. Can you not? Oh, I love this one. This is them together. Oh, these are beautiful. Like, let me find one more. Like, let me find my other favorite one. Where is it? Right there. Oh. Stunning artwork. Like, I need to annotate this. Like, I finally have my physical copy. I guess I had paperback and I did not want paperback. This book is a masterpiece, okay? Carissa Broadbent is like one of my favorite authors of all time. This one is like a Hunger Games type romance or type book that also has like a romance between a vampire and a human, okay? So we have Aurea, and she is the adopted human daughter of the Nightborn vampire king, okay? And basically, she lives in a world of vampires, which is not safe for her. So her only chance to become more than like prey to them is entering the Kajari, which is basically a legendary Hunger Games type duel, a duel to the death essentially, hosted by the goddess of death. And whoever wins ends up getting a wish granted from the goddess of death. And so obviously she's probably going to wish to be a vampire or to be immortal or something like that. But then she has to make an alliance in order to win the Kajari because it's really dangerous for her as a human with a rival. And the rival is Mr. Rain. And he is a ruthless vampire, an efficient killer. But of course, it is their love story. And I haven't read Ashes in the Star-Cursed King yet. I've kind of been holding it off because I'm like afraid of how much I'm going to love this book. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, it's just intimidating to me. This book was everything, okay? This book was everything. Everything! I wish that I had quotes from this book, but I don't because I read my paperback and I sold my paperback, and so now I have to be doing this. I can use these to find them. So here's one. Yet I found myself not minding as I drifted too easily to sleep in his arms. And now as I lay nose to nose beside him, watching the heavy fall of his lashes against his cheek and the steady rhythm of his sleeping breaths, I thought it was worth it to witness him this way. Oh, this is just so beautiful. I just love it so much. I can't even talk about how much I love this book. I'm sure I can find one more quote. Let me see. I can't find another quote from this book. When I tell you this book is magical and that you should read it, and if you haven't read it, you need to read it, I'm serious, okay? Like, I stan Aurea and Rain. And I know not everybody loves Aurea, but I do, okay? I just love her. I love her so very much. I love this book. I can't wait till they do page overlays for the Ashes in the Star-Cursed King. I just love this book with my whole heart and my whole chest, okay? And I've basically known this since April that this was going to be my best book of the year, so I'm sure nobody's honestly that surprised. And those are my best books of the year. If you got to the end of it, give me a trophy emoji and drop your best book of the year down below because I definitely want to know so that I can get better books on my list. But all of these books are so good, okay? All of them. They are all fabulous. I love each and every single one of these books, and I'm so happy that I got to read them all in 2023, and I cannot wait for the new year ahead in 2024. I'm already looking to some very excited, anticipated releases. And with that, my friends, you'll see me tomorrow for another video because I'm doing all of my end of the year content, but I don't know what video it is right now, so it'll be a surprise to you and to me. And with that, I'll see you in a video very soon. Bye!